Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And alhamdulillah. Wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsani ila yawmiddin wa ba'd. We'd like to welcome you all to our monthly gathering of our family night, inshallah. And as you all know, the gathering tonight is to unite the hearts of the believers in a social setting, that we get out, come together as families. Food, family, and fun is the goal tonight, inshallah ta'ala. And before we begin, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept these efforts from us and make them benefit for everyone joining. So we are in person, and then we're on live. We're live online, inshallah, as well. And so all the people who are joining us online, welcome. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you for your time, inshallah. So we'll get right into it. So tonight's topic is called Men and Women, Divine Manifestations. Men and Women, Divine Manifestations. So there's a quote that I came across in one of my knowledge travels, inshallah, and this quote was very profound, because one of the things that we go through in these times is all of the nuances between men and women, and gender wars, all of this stuff, and we had to try to strip all of that down and realize what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us in making men and making women women. So this quote is very profound, at least to me. I mean, I'm not the most poetic kind of guy, but I thought this was deep. It said that the man is the external manifestation of divine majesty, and the woman is the man is the external manifestation of divine majesty, and the woman is the external manifestation of divine beauty. And together they are a deep manifestation of divine togetherness. Together they are a deep manifestation of divine togetherness. So what does this mean? What do you all think this means? Teamwork makes the dream work. So the man has that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he calls us the Khalifa. He gives us like a divine commandment in the earth that's kind of kingly, So there's, a correlation, calling us kings. Of course we know Allah is Al-Malik, right? And that a woman is the external manifestation of divine beauty, because when a man, the first thing he knows about a woman is what? How beautiful she is, And most of the time men become, struck on a woman's external beauty, And so these things are already in place for us as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala manifesting his divine majesty. So what's the proof for that? Anybody know? What's there any proof? Because this is a religious talk. We're just not shooting from the hip. Anybody understand that? What's some of that?
Proof of togetherness?
Yeah.
Kids?
Yeah, kids is one of the it's one of the byproducts of the union between men and women. But something more than that, I'm looking for something specific. So I'm looking for my students of knowledge, like Abdul Majid. Yeah, kind of that. I'm looking for a particular ayat. Yeah, that could go. So he mentioned the ayat in Surah Nisa, the first ayat, that Allah, fear Allah who created you and created from you spouses, and like that. So, but the ayat I'm looking for is Surah Rum. Surah Rum. You know the ayat, right? So when we talk about this divine manifestation of men and women, there's an ayat in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Wa min ayatihi an khalaqa lakum min anfusikum azwaja litaskunu ilayha. So he says, in addressing the men, and among his ayat, The ayat in the Quran means like a sign or a miracle, right? He says that he created for you from amongst yourself min anfusikum azwaja. The word is plural for zawj. So zawj is like your wife, husband, or your partner or your mate, right? And that the purpose of it, litaskunu ilayha, that you will find tranquility in them and in each other, right? And then he says, وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مُوَدَّةَ وَرَحْمَةً, and he has placed between you. He made these creations of love and mercy and put them between men and women so that they can utilize them to obtain this manifestation of the divine, right? Inna fi dhalika la ayati liqaumin yatafakkarun. And that is a sign or miracle for those who think deeply, who do this concept called tafakkur. Tafakkur is to ponder, to contemplate of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put all of this in motion. So why is this a miracle? Why this is a miracle? This tranquility, this sakina.
Because not a lot of people get it.
Not a lot of people get it, but one of the things nowadays that we know is that putting men and women together, that they have similarities, that women are from men, they have similarities, but men and women are inherently different. Biologically, all of these scientific studies show that men and women are just inherently different. Biologically, by neuroscience, physically, psychologically, spiritually, men and women are, different and sometimes complete opposites, even though they have similarities because they come from the same essence, right? So obtaining this sakina is a miracle when you can do it. So when you look at differences of men, because one of the biggest crimes today is trying to make men and women equal. When everything about men and women indicates that they are different, they are inherently different, and that's not a bad thing. That's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala designed it for whatever reason, but that's how he made it. And now we have people trying to change it. So for instance, they have done studies and they show that when boys and girls from age 9 to 17 months, as early as that, and even earlier, that they show signs of having what they call stereotypical differences of being a boy and a girl, even though they don't recognize what sex is. That when they study them, that they show, like boys show already, like, adventurous, risk-taking, a little aggression, territorialism, possession, all of this stuff. And girls, they show sharing, nurturing, and caring. And they don't know at that age what their sex, what their organs or anything do. But they already show these signs of being inherently different. So that's one of the miracles from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And nowadays, people have tried to condition us to think that some of these roles are not stereotypical. They're just how men and women are, So, and, as we said, that this study said that, they don't know sex and gender, but they already established things that, this is what boys do and this is what girls do inherently, So there's a study I came across. It was in a neuroscience journal. And they did a study that was completely dedicated to the differences, the neurological differences between men and women, right? So it was called the Journal of Neuroscience Research, and it was by a doctor named Dr. Larry Cahill, Cahill. So this was a study that was produced in 2017. And in this study, he dedicated entirely to sex difference on the nervous system function, right? And the nervous system is developed first, right? The nervous system is developed first. So this is already, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala places us in the wombs of our mothers, this is already something that is established before they can even realize, gender. These things are already there because no one comes and then their neurological system changes. It's already there, Who put it there? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they said, and this is some of the findings that they had. So they did like brain imaging studies, and they said that these differences are well beyond the reproductive domain. So, for instance, they said that overall, that men's brains are bigger overall, right? But then they said that a woman's the hippocampus, is that how you pronounce it? The part of the brain that's critical for learning and memorization, that in a woman, even though the man's brain is larger, that the woman's hippocampus is larger in the brain and it works differently for learning and memorization, right? So that means, what does that mean for us?
They remember everything.
They don't forget nothing, they don't forget anything, and they learn better than us. They actually learn better than us, you know. And they said it works differently from a man, even though it's larger than a man's, but a man's brain is bigger overall. But that doesn't make the man superior, as we'll see, right? And then it says that a man's amygdala, that's the one that's associated with emotions, right? That's the part of the brain. It says that it is bigger in the man's brain than in the woman's brain. So the part in the man's brain that triggers emotions and all of those things is bigger in the man, but the man has less emotional responses than a woman does. Did y'all know that? Okay, I know we have some nurses upstairs. They can check us out, inshallah. So that's something interesting that even scientifically, these things can be explained. But this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put in the creation, right? And then it says, um, how they experience emotions is different. Right? Then it says that women, they excel in several measures of verbal ability. And it says pretty much all of them except for verbal analogies. So meaning sometimes you ever talk, if you marry, you talk to your wife, and you might say some things, and what are you trying to say? And they might not. For us, it's something to parent, and for them, it's like you gotta break it down even more, because they might not get it, even though their learning capabilities are better than us, except when they have to make analogies. And that's not a slight to women, because nowadays, if you say anything about women, you get canceled. But that's not a slight to women. These are scientific studies that anybody can check out. So this is just how different men and women are, and the difference is what makes the harmony better. It's the difference that makes the harmony better. So then it says, and that women's reading comprehension and writing ability is consistently exceeds that of men on average. So they read better than us and they understand better than us. And it says that women, they outperform men in tests of fine motor coordination and perceptual speed. And they're more adept at retrieving information from long-term memory. So as you said, they don't forget anything. And they can, long-term memory, they can recall it with ease. And and if you ever listen to, say, old men talk, and they tell stories from back in the day, when they tell them later, they be mad exaggerated. You know what I mean? But the women, and you can even test this theory out. If you ever talk to an older woman or a woman in general and ask them about some memory before, they'll take you through every detail. So I remember such and such. They might remember the date, the weather, the circumstance, the conditions, and then they'll tell you all of these details that, as men, when you're talking to women, you're like, I didn't really want to hear all that, but you got to listen anyway. You know what I mean? So women, they give you a lot of information, so detailed information. So it says that they're more adept at retrieving information from long-term memory. So then they did the study about these brain scan images about men. It says that men, on average, they can easily juggle items in working memory. And they have superior visual spatial skills. Visual spatial skills. That means, we mentioned this last month for those who were here, that the men has the ability to have foresight. And we referenced the ayah from the Quran when Musa, after he married one of the, in the Surah Qasas, he married one of the daughters, And then he took his family and then he said, I see a fire. I see something ahead. So let me go see if I can bring something back or see what's going on. That men have this innate ability to perceive things that's going around them, to pay attention to surroundings. And you know how we put this to the test? Just imagine if with your wife or with a woman and you're driving around, you paying attention to everything. And sometimes it's part of, you looking what's going on and perceiving danger. And you see something and the woman might not even pay attention, you know. And in some cases, they're only paying attention to what you're looking at. So, but men have the ability to perceive what's going on around and have a sense of some type of thing. Let me go check this out, and most of us, would you agree, when we out and about, we're paying attention to our surroundings, so then it says that they're better at visualizing what happens when a complicated 2 or 3 dimensional shape is rotated in space, at correctly determining angles from the horizontal, at tracking moving objects, and at aiming projectiles. So men pay attention in a different way than women pay attention. And this is just something that's inherent, that no kind of gender identity or whatever all the stuff they got, none of that can change that. None of that can change that. So, and then now if you think about it, you see all these differences that are inherent in men and women even before they reach maturity. So how do you obtain this tranquility? This is ayat sakina. How do you obtain this tranquility? So this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls it a miracle, because when men and women have these innate differences and then you have to put them together and try to obtain peace, how difficult is that? Because it's not a given. There's the times where, we do stuff and women won't let us forget it. There are times, they piss us off and then they act like it never happened. There are times where you need to be listening actively instead of inactively, and vice versa. There are times where they just need you to listen. They got things figured out. There are times you want to be heard, but your voice don't matter because it don't matter to them. So all of these differences that you could think of in your own lives, how men and women are different, putting that together is a miracle, to obtain tranquility, because it don't come as a given just because you said I do, that you agreed to take this person as your spouse before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so then you see all the indications that Allah says, وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مُوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً, and He placed between you love and mercy. So you have to rely on these more than anything else because of these differences. The difference is that, we can have an argument about something as simple as just, you can imagine, something as simple that could turn into a big blow up over nothing. Then when you go back and look at it, leaving the toilet seat up, or some things where I'm out of here, I'm not being around this, or anything, or the difference is when you try to talk to a woman or your wife, and when she get in a mode like she don't want to talk, you got a problem on your hands. You know what I mean? So all of these things are all these innate differences that make up men and women, and it's a sign when you can put it together, And one of the harms, as we mentioned, that people are currently trying to make men and women equal. So we should understand that men and women, we should remember this, men and women are equal but not identical. Men and women are equal but not identical. Because now if you look at instances now and you see the subtle propaganda against the assault on men and women, right? Like what was that movie, the new Wakanda? Wakanda Forever. Do you all see that movie? So if you notice some of the subtleties, you notice how that the women were like these warriors, aggressive, masculine, and making these women like they were the leaders, and then the men were like like backwards, like soft, what's the word I'm looking for? Almost like they didn't know how to function as men, where naturally they already know how to do this stuff, And there's an agenda, and if you look throughout in social media and through the entertainment industry, they are subtly trying to make women like men and men like women. Even if you watch a TV show, like if you all can go back to Good Times, you all remember Good Times, and remember, James Evans, how he was a strong father figure, you know,
They killed them all.
yeah, and they killed them all because when they wrote the contract, he said that they was trying to make him more like a buffoon character. Like his character was too strong because back in the show they showed the show when he beat Michael with the belt and beat his boy, remember, and then had a talk with him. You know what I mean? He went to bat for JJ when Mad Dog shot JJ. You might not know about this, younger, but maybe you'll go watch Good Times. You'll get something out of it. And but he was present all the time. Even Joe James was frustrated. He kept a job. He was in the home. He always talked of Florida, but he always just argued. He was mad. Maybe he's breaking the pots of the fridge. He was just, but that was who he was. And even though it was a character, it represented a strong man that was at the head of the household, that was willing to take on all of the things to take care of his family, which is part of the makeup of a man. And then they didn't want him to present that. And so, if you think about it conspiratorially, they didn't want us to see an image of a strong man, and now it's been weakened. So now if you see even good family shows, the husband is like, incompetent. The woman is running everything. And the man is just like, he just like concedes to whatever she says, and so there's a subtle, propaganda doing that. So like in this movie we're talking about in Wakanda Forever, they made the men like they were backwards, like, they weren't leaders, and now with all of this stuff about making the genders equal or even opposite, all of these things have some subtle, things that try to really pit us against each other. And a lot of Muslims are buying into this, unfortunately. You go on social media, you find a lot of men and women arguing with each other about rights and roles and responsibilities, and, all this talk about, well, what do you bring to the table, and, and all of this nonsense, But innately, we are inherently different, and that we have to do different things, And, we had the training when we was little. Anybody remember this this nursery rhyme? Not nursery rhyme, but they used to say that girls are made of sugar and spice and everything nice. And what they say about the boys, you remember? they dogged us. They were made of rats, snails, and puppy dog tails. You remember that? You remember that? Y'all remember that?
I remember the sugar.
Yeah. So very early, But if you look at it now, I mean, if you think about it, we're talking about thinking deeply. This is what makes you a man, because you're grimy, you gritty, you hard nosed, you can take on the hard stuff. You have already the ability to foresee things, to take danger, excitement, have aggression, overcome your fears, not being in the tune as your emotions as a woman is, but this is what makes you a man. And they try to tell us that some of these things, is bad, but we already exhibit some of these things even before we realize that we are actually boys. As the study, they said from 9 months to 17 months, boys already show these things. And they've done other studies where they, with boys in groups, the first thing we do in groups is what we doing. As a boy, just remember you're a boy and you got with a group of boys, what's the first thing that happens? Yeah, some mischief, competition. We're going to be competitive. Somebody got to do something better than the other. Somebody got to try something. When we were growing up, we were slap boxing. We all tried all types of tricks, how we can outdo each other. And women, they talk to each other. They share secrets. They nurture each other. And these are things that's just inherently different, And putting these together, when we reach adulthood, when we already have these traits embedded in us, the miracle is making it to achieve Sakina. And it's not as easy because, we all of these differences that we have, So, and one of the things where there's equal opportunity for men and women is the pursuit of taqwa and pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is where the equality is. That where we should be competing with each other, that's where we become equal, and that's where we have a chance to surpass each other, depending on the level of taqwa. So, Allah says in the Quran, وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِنَ الصَّالِحَاتِ مِنْ ذَكَرٍ أَوْ أُنْثَىٰ وَهُوَ الْمُؤْمِنُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ يَدْخُلُونَ الْجَنَّةَ وَلَا يَظْلَمُونَ نَكِيرًا. He says, and whoever does righteous deeds, whether they are male or female, it don't matter. There is no preference. There is no preference in gender when a person is trying to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is based on the person's efforts. So no one has any kind of advantage over the other. So men are not going to be more righteous because they are men, and likewise women are not going to be more righteous because they're women. Whoever takes the pains to, do all of these righteous things, and they will enter paradise while they are a believer, and they will not be wrong as much as a nakira, which is like a speck on a date seed. A little thing that's insignificant. A person will not receive any injustice on the judgment day if they have iman, and then they just work to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, man or woman. And this is where we kind of losing, because we're trying to compete in other areas where we're just different. It's never going to be the same. Men are going to be men and women are going to be women. But because Allah created us in His divine will, that we come from each other, we're going to have some similarities. So there are some times when women do have to be tough. There are some times when men have to tune into their emotions. There are times we have to listen. There are times where we're going to argue. There are times we're going to be on the outs. There are times we're going to love each other. There are times we feel like we're not going to stand each other. But in the midst of all of that, we keep the goal that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us to achieve sakina, and using the tools that He says, muwadda and rahma. So muwadda means like to be affectionate, like, not just love, but to be affectionate. And when you're affectionate with somebody, you're in tune, you're paying attention, you focus, you pay attention to the details, And rahma, of course, be merciful to each other when it becomes hard to forgive. When we say things that we didn't want to say and we regret, and then our egos tell us, man, I'm not apologizing, But rahma means you apologize because you want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be merciful towards you. So all of this is for the one. Inna fi dhalika la ayati liqaumin yatafakkarun. In those signs, in that whole thing of the makeup, men and women coming from each other, being inherently different, and then trying to put harmony. Because and when you're in a band, or we talked about this yesterday, you in the band, it's the different notes of each player that makes the harmony, not the same. It's putting the different notes together in the musical structure that makes it flow. Not everybody playing the same tune. You know what I'm saying? You play this note, you play this note, you play at this level. Putting that all together is what makes it harmony. Not that everybody's doing the same thing. And the same thing for husband and wife. It doesn't make it sakina that we agree all the time, or we're on the same page all the time. No, when these differences arise, we return to the tools that Allah gave us: love and mercy, forgiveness, flexibility, listening, reasoning, overlooking faults, apologizing, and these things are not easy, because of our makeup. When a man he gets into a rage, and the woman, they say, they talk about their verbal superiority over us. That's what we mentioned, that they are superior us in how they talk. And, they say that a woman's weapons are her words. Because a woman naturally, normally she can't beat you physically. I don't know about nowadays, but normally a woman can't beat you physically, but a woman can say some words that could scar you. But it's also vice versa. A man can say words to women, and they're already fragile, and you say some things that not only will it hurt them, but they will never forget it, And we have a tendency that we will internalize things, and because our emotional capacity is already small, that we would just dismiss it. But at the same time, it's something written on us that's affecting us, And so you have to look at all of these things, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes a man can be emotionally frail. A woman can say some things. I always think about Color Purple, with Sophia and Harpo. There's like between the fighting, the babies kept coming. You know what I mean? So they was arguing, fighting, fussing, but they still loved each other. They had a little squad, right? And then I always remember the scene when they was in the juke joint. So if you all remember, I'm sorry I'm talking about movies, but just to give you a reference. So when she came to the juke joint, and so she came down there with the dude, what was his name? Buster. So already start trouble. You come down to your ex-husband's juke joint with your man to start trouble, just to see if he gonna respond. Women do that stuff. They do things just for you to respond, and sometimes that means you care. But in the man's mind, don't take me there, because when I go there, I can't. Somebody gonna get hurt, and then sometimes that means we showing them love. So she come down there. What you doing down here? What kind of you scandalous? Right? So, and then when she ended up talking to Harpo, you remember how she, oh, come on, baby, come on. So Harpo want to talk, and then he broke that smile. I can't, resist the woman's charm. So these are things that really make the harmony, even though sometimes at the time, they be difficult. You know what I'm saying? So when a woman acts feminine towards a man, even when he's upset, he can't really resist. And this is the woman's power is in her femininity, and the man's power is in his masculinity. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already created us in a divine manifestation of each of those. So we just have to know when to use them and when not to use them. So, but where we equal at an equal opportunity is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by developing taqwa. Yeah, so we should keep in mind that we come, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put some divine majesty and divine beauty in us, in men and women, and we have to find the ways to put them together, because it starts with the men and women. And Allah sends us all types of signs. We know in the Quran where He said the Prophet Isa alayhi salam, he spoke from the cradle. So if Allah willed it, He could have made us all mature right from the beginning. And you all know, have you all heard this before? That how we're different from the jinns is that the jinns, the mankind is man and jinn, right? That the jinns already are mubalik from the time that they're born. Did you know that?
Explain what mubalik is.
Mubalik is when you reach the age of maturity. And for men, it is when you become, you have nocturnal emission, when you have, your pubic hairs, or you reach the age of 15, right? And for women is when they reach their cycle. This is the age of responsibility, and this will be, it's called taklif, the age of responsibility, right? And so when a person is mubalik, when they reach that age, but the jinns, as soon as they are born, they are already at that age of maturity, So Allah already showed us that if Isa spoke from the grave, He could have made every single person come. He could have made us like that, but we had to go through a process of growing up and learning and developing our motor skills and learning how to talk, and then learning how to speak, and learn how to write, and all of these kind of things. And you don't get it until you reach a certain age, and nobody will reach it there's no person that comes into existence that they're going to come out the womb talking. They're going to come out the womb fully ready. You got to go through a stage. But Allah shows us with Prophet Isa alayhi salam that He could very well make us all come out, just like He does other creations. There are other animals, when they're fully born, like elephants, they're already ready to go. And other animals too. Yeah, kangaroos and all of those things. And so we should reflect in that. So it's different with humans. And, we got to go through a stage of learning, so. But really, honing in on this divine manifestation of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made as a miracle for us as men and women getting together, because men and women, they make it up. And when men and women are in tune with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they recognize their duty to each other, this is how stability is in the world, And there's an assault on the family structure. Not men wanting to get married. And then in our culture, they made it easy, for zina and to be shacking up. And now that's commonplace, even more than marriage. You'll hear people say, you should shack up with somebody and get to know them without the commitment, And then how do a lot of people meet? And this is something that we don't really want to talk about. In our era where we came from, it was like you was out to get the woman, or the woman was out to get something from you. But the talk of family and all of that was never part of the issue. So then what happens? You enjoy the comfort of a woman, and you never, the intent was to be a father. The intent was to have a rendezvous. You know what I mean? So then when she's pregnant, oh, well, ain't mine. Or all that stuff. It's all part of the harms of not, promoting marriage in the society. You know, it's really been harmful nowadays. All of this baby mama drama and baby daddy drama is a result of not understanding what this divine manifestation is. You make a commitment and you do your best before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to create the sakina in a marriage. And because this missing, this is the society is lopsided. Because when the man and women don't manifest this as a stable unit, then the kids are deprived. And you can go on a study of all of the young men in prison, young women in prison, even many of the people that you read in society that has all type of psychological disorders, even some of the stars. You ever watch like them shows like Unsung? Like people like David Ruffin and like Freddie Jackson. If you remember some of the things that they said, they were missing their father. Their father wasn't around. Or they saw their father, doing things to their mother that was just, they was traumatized, physical abuse or alcohol abuse or whatever, But a lot of them, and a lot of brothers in prison, their fathers wasn't there, or if he was there, he wasn't active and engaged. Papa was a Rolling Stone, and this is something that's been accepted in the society, And so all of that, when the men and women are not on the same page with this divine manifestation of majesty and beauty and putting that together for Allah, then this is all the problems in society start. So, we have to be those people who will offset this kind of stuff, inshallah. Yeah, so we'll end there. So we went over a little, about half an hour. So, as you know, we do these family talks. We try to do a reminder. We're not just coming to eat and, because that's easy to do. We got a table full of food, devour the food, chop it up, and then roll, but just to make it beneficial. So we hope that this talk served the purpose, inshallah. So all of the talks are, based around family issues, men, women, children, and things that we can do better according to Islam to make our families better. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept it from us and to forgive us for any mistakes. And we ask Allah to make us signs, of reflection, that He has given us. I mean, all right, so we're in there. Are there any questions or anything? Or okay, that's a good sign. Alhamdulillah. So we're in there. All the people tuning in online, we thank you for checking in with us, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you for taking the time to listen to our little rant. So we appreciate it, man. Allah bless you all and give you all a great reward. I mean, subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.